Safety. It's a big thing in the workshop. If you don't feel safe doing something, or you just don't feel comfortable, don't do it. You're the only person who can keep you safe. And if you don't do it, no one else can.
Well, good morning. Today's session is going to be a little bit different. Mainly, I've had a number of questions about some of the tools that I've been seen using that I make myself. And so I'm going to try and answer some of the questions today. The more recent tools that I've been making have been made from high-speed steel. And I recently attended a training session with a gentleman from France, Alain Milan, and he makes his own small tools too. He forges them from high carbon steel, and the course was showing us how he uses them to make the wonderful things he makes. But it reinforced a little bit to me that I wasn't going in a wrong direction. The tools that I've been making work well for me, and they work for others too. So today I'm going to show you some of those tools, and I'm going to show you the basics of how I make one of the tools. So I'm going to switch the camera now and focus it in on some of the tools. Here we have some of my tools. Now, it all started with the high-speed steel tools with this little tool here. And this tool is a tool made with a piece of high-speed steel here. It's 5/16 by 5/16 by 2.5 long. Now you can buy high-speed steel from most suppliers to metal manufacturing factories. I purchased this from Busy Bee. I'm sure there are many companies that sell it, and if you look on the internet, on eBay, you'll find lots of people selling pieces of high-speed steel. Now, this tool is, I really need something behind it. Let me get something that I can rest it on. 1 second. Okay, we'll try this now. Yes, that's probably better. I think it focuses better. This is the tool that I made first of all, and when I made this, I took the piece of 5/16 high-speed steel and I drilled a hole into the piece of hot-rolled mild steel that I had, so that the tool bit would just go inside here, and I silver soldered the tool bit into the mild steel. Since then, I have found that I can successfully glue the high-speed steel into a piece of mild steel, and I use JB to do that. It's a 2-part epoxy. Seems very strong. It's for joining metal, and I have also used, so this here would be one that I made with JB Weld. You can see it's along the shape and size of the original one I made. The original one, I fiddled around all day making this, and the shape wasn't exactly like this on the end when I finished it. And my wife came out and said, "What did you do today?" I said, "Oh, I was quite proud I'd made this little tool." And she said, "Is that all?" And so I've called it my "That's All" tool. I've got it written on the end there, I don't know if you can see it. So I've called it my "That's All" tool. But it's a very useful little tool, and I will show you some of the things it can do later. And you've probably seen it in some of my other videos, because I tend to pick it up and use it quite often. But a good friend of mine came up with the idea of producing some handles from aluminum. And these are made from aluminum with a 1/2-inch hole in the end, a couple of set screws, and then he got them powder coated. And he made a couple and gave to me. And I made some of these, and he has some now. Not as many as me, probably. But you can see how this works. You can put that in there. Now this is a piece of 1/2 inch cold rolled steel. It's mild steel, drilled, and then the 5/16 high speed steel is just glued in there with the JB weld, and it works very successfully. Part of the idea that my friend had was that you could reverse this like that and transport it safely with no sharp edges. And so if you go on a little course or something, a demo, if you're giving a demo, you can take some tools safely like this. They're not going to cut through the bag or whatever you're carrying them in. So that was another added bonus, and I found that I really like this setup, and it works very well, and that's why I make them now without a handle on, like this. This is just a flat on the ground on the master that the set screw can go on, so that it doesn't damage the piece that's sliding inside the tool. So this is my little that's all tool. It's like a little tiny skew chisel here, and it's very good for parting off or putting a V in a piece this way. I have ended up making this slightly negative. You can see that there's a slight downturn on this end, which makes it just a little bit less grabby, and I'll tend to sharpen it most of the time just using a Sorby diamond file and filing this way and filing this way. And by doing that, what I do is I bring up a little tiny burr on the edge here. Before I file up, I'll just file over the top, then I'll file up. You don't need to do it too many times. And the other way. And yes, I have a nice little burr there. So it's a simple way to sharpen it. And occasionally, you know, you maybe have to go back to, well, I'm going to say grinder, but I don't use a grinder. I use a belt sander. And I find I get a much nicer finish with the belt sander. So that's one tool. I should mention this one. This was one of my earlier tools that I posted a video showing how this cuts and how it works. This was made from a piece of high-speed steel here, and I just drilled a hole through on an angle, you can see here, and I put a set screw in the bottom here that pushes up on the bottom of the high-speed steel here. Just here's the high-speed steel, and the screw goes up here, and that locks the piece of high-speed steel in there. And now this is a negative rake tool, and it was very useful for going in behind a lip. It doesn't grab because it's negative like this. It doesn't self-feed or pull into the work, so you can smooth a nice curve behind a lip or something in a place where it's difficult to do normally, and it works very, very well. So that was really my first one, not the that's all. And I was so thrilled with this at the time that I made a little video and posted it, so it's on my channel there. There. Originally I had the set screw in the top, but I found there was more meat here for the thread, and it did just as good a job pushing up underneath. And the chips don't get in there as easily as they got in it when it was on the top, the wood chips. So there, I'll just show that like that so you can see how it's sharpened. It's just a radius, just got clearance here on the bottom. A very simple tool to make, and I put a handle on it. And You'll probably notice this on most of my handles now too. I put a flat on the bottom, so when it's resting on the tool, it doesn't, on the lathe, it doesn't roll away. And I did that with one tool, and then I found that I liked how it fit my hand, how I could grip this here. It gave me some, feeling of control, and so I've ended up doing it to most of my tools now. But don't go rushing and do it to all your tools. Try it on one, an old one that you don't think much of. Then if you like it, you can do it to more. So that was another tool. I recently went on a wood turning course with Alain Milan. The tools that he makes, and he forges tools, makes these tools and will sell these tools. And they're tools for doing the very special kind of turning that he does. And I have a sample here of the sort of thing that he taught us on the first day, which was very basic and nothing like what he can do. But Alan turns from the roots, burl roots of trees. Let me back on out here. Things like these flowers. Now that's a burl root, and it's to make a flower. Now this is mine. Mine is nothing like as fine as Alan would do, but then he's had lots more experience than me, and it's wet. You can see it's wet. It's dripping there. He keeps the roots wet, and he turns them wet. Then when they dry, they'll twist and bend to all kinds of shapes. So this is the start of one of those flowers. Now he doesn't just do flowers, he does some marvelous things. This is just the basic sort of thing that he uses to train people who want to take his course. And he teaches you, using his tools, how to get down inside and turn something like this. Now you can see that my original tool would quite comfortably start doing something like this, but it can't get around the bend. And so another one that I made is quite a lot thinner. Same idea, made the same from a little bit of smaller, and that would get in quite a way, and I was able to use this to do some of this work. But then Alan has made some curved tools like this. He has forged them, which allow you to get around deeper down in the flower, and he has different radiuses on them, different curves on them for getting in different depths. Now this is one I was attempting to make from high-speed steel. I don't have a sharp enough curve on this particular one, but it shows that I could do it and make it curved to do that kind of work. So this was another one that I just showed you with a thinner, finer piece of high-speed steel. That's quarter inch high-speed steel, made the same way. Glued in a piece of 1/2 inch cold rolled mild steel. Okay. What other ones do we have here? Okay, here's an interesting little tool. This is made from a piece of round high-speed steel. Again, a hole is drilled and it's glued into a piece of 1/2 inch cold rolled mild steel, and you can see the way this one is shaped on the end there. And if we look at the end, you'll see that it's shaped like this. And I'll show you what this one can do. Now this is one that, it's not my idea, this is one that I saw on the internet. Someone else using a tool like this, and I thought that's a good idea, I'll try it, and this is my attempt at trying it. Another one along the same sort of line, made inside a piece of 1/2 inch cold rolled steel, piece of 5/16 high-speed steel. You can see that it just has a radius on the end. It's quite sharp, very shallow cut, but it's negative. It's a negative rake. When you come to put that in the wood, it will not pull in. It cuts very smoothly, and I see there is some information on negative rake tools out there on the internet now, and I wanted to try one because of my experience with that first tool that I made, and I'm very pleased with this one. Here's one that hasn't been shaped into anything yet. It's just got the piece of 5/16 high-speed steel sticking out of it, and you can see this one I glued with standard epoxy, 2-part epoxy, not the JB Weld, but the just standard 2-part epoxy, and I've made a couple like this. That seems to work too. So I was very pleased with that. What else do I have? Oh, the tools that Alain uses, that he forges, that he sells, needs for you to have something to hold them in. And so this is the kind of holder that he recommended. It has a hole in the end and a set screw, and you insert the tool, the forge tool that he sells and manufactures, tighten up the set screw, and bingo, you have a tool that you can put. This is 14 inches long. He makes them a little bit longer, I believe, and you can put a handle on the end. Let me show you that. This is a ferrule that's sold by One Way, and there are other people who sell ferrules. This one is kind of different in that it's actually screws on the outside of the piece of wood that you make the handle from. So there's my handle. Notice all the flats on it, so it's good for gripping, knowing where I am, plus it doesn't roll. So this is the ferrule that I used, and this is a 5/8 ferrule, and I use this for my One Way gouges. I have a couple of One Way double-ended gouges, so I can put normal grind on one end and a shallow grind on the other for doing bowls when you need to get down and go around the bottom of the bowl. It's almost like a ball shape I put on the bottom here, and this would be a normal Irish grind or whatever. It's about 40 degrees and 40 degrees. Beautiful tool. So I've got these ferrules to make handles for the One Way tools. But I then went on this course and found that this handle was ideal for holding Alain's forge tools in the handle, because he likes to have a long handle, and it worked very well. I can make this as long or as short as I want, and tighten it up here on the screws, and go in and curve those flowers and other little turnings. So there's just another tool, and it's along the same lines of having a piece of well, this is 5/8 mild steel, cold rolled. Cold rolled is always shiny and it's made to size, whereas hot rolled is black and scaly, and it's not really to any kind of accurate size at all. It's not really much good for these kind of things. So how do I make them? Okay, to start, you're going to need a piece of 1/2 inch cold rolled mild steel. I cut mine about 4.5 inches long, and that's because I had the handle to put them in, this handle. But if you were going to do this with them, if you were going to make a handle, you'd probably want them a bit longer, and I would say maybe something in the range of 5.5 or 6 inches long, and then just a little wooden handle on the end. So you start with a piece of 1/2 inch or whatever. You could go to 5/8 if the tool steel is larger, because you can get this high-speed tool steel in all different sizes. We've got a piece of 1/8, piece of 3/16, piece of 1/4, piece of 5/16, and this is a piece that's 3/8 by 1/2 inch, so it's 3/8 that way, 1/2 inch that way. And of course you can get round, and if you go on the internet and look, look on eBay, or just Google, you know, high-speed tool steel, you'll find all kinds of suppliers and people selling tool steel. This was one I started to make from a piece of 10mm round. I started to shape the end there, but for the life of me I can't remember now what I was going to make. So it may come back to me, or I may get a different idea. But you can see this is one that's glued just with 2-part epoxy in a little piece of 1/2 inch. So it's ready for something. We don't know what yet. And here's one that had a piece of 5/16 square. Again, it's just a 2-part epoxy on this one. I must have been having a senior's moment when I glued those two in, because I didn't do it intentionally. I just mixed up some epoxy and glued them in. Then I realized after, oh, I used the regular. Anyway, so here's a couple that are in the production line. To start, you need the piece of 1/2 inch cold rolled steel, 4.5, 5 inches long, something like that. Okay, so I'm going to turn off the camera now, and then I'm going to show you how you can drill this out on your wood lathe. I do have a little metal lathe that I tend to do this on, but not everybody has that, so I'll show you how you can drill that on the wood lathe. If you have a set of pin jaws, or you could make a jam chuck, you know, drill a 1/2 inch hole in a piece of wood and put your, you know, cut a slot in it and put your chuck on the outside, and it will grip it enough to drill it. Okay, so we'll be back to do that. Well, just a quick answer to one of the questions I had from someone. They saw this little sandpaper tree, and this is just the kind of clips that they sell for putting brooms and mops in the closet, back of the door or whatever. So I just use it. I've got it a magnet on the bottom, so I can stick it anywhere, wherever I'm going. Put it up here, quite convenient. Oh, you can't see that on the camera, but it's just on the top here. Okay, objective here now is to drill a hole in the end of this for the 5/16 high-speed steel bit. So, highly likely, if you've got a set of pin jaws, that they won't run completely true, but probably true enough. And a gentleman by the name of Brendan Stemp showed this little trick for truing up things in the on the lathe. You can just put a little force here. Now he was showing it with a piece of wood, but it works the steel too. Okay, so here I've got a drill that's just oh, let me just measure that now. I picked up the wrong drill here. 445 roughly. Yeah, let me find a drill. I'm just going to turn the camera off while I find a drill. So this one should do. when you're drilling steel. Don't need a lot of speed. Yeah, I have a drill just over 5/16, so quite a bit smaller. I'm going to have to grind the corners off of this to fit it in there, but it'll be stronger. Yeah, that should be deep enough. Now it'll go on the start, but it won't go in where the hole is smaller. I'll just grind the corners off of this and fit it in. 1 second. There. There, it's quite loose, and you can see that that I've ground the corners off of this so that it will go in here. So now it can be glued in there. I would use JB Weld, put it in, and after I put the glue in, I would sit it vertical in the vise, keep it lined up straight, you know, so that it's going to be straight coming out of the tool. And when the glue is dried, I'd give it 24 hours. Then you would shape this end on the grinder. Using I use the water a lot when I'm grinding. I have a bucket of water there. I don't want it getting warm. If it does get warm, then don't dip it in the water, because it's high-speed steel. If it gets warm, if it starts to get some color, just set it aside and let it cool, and it won't lose its hardness. But what I do is I grind and I dip, and I grind and I dip, grind and dip. Make sure you don't have a sharp drill there when you're dipping. Grind and I'll dip it in the water, grind a little more and dip it in the water, so that it stays cool. I can hold it in my hand, I know it's cool, it's not losing its temper, it's not losing its hardness. There. So I would say use something around a 5/16 and grind the corners off. What's this now? This is this drill I used here, yeah. That's 350, 360, whatever that is, 0.36. It's over 5/16. 5/16 is 312. That's 360, so it's a little over 5/16. I just had to take the corners off, so we'll go in and then we'll glue it. And when the glue sets after 24 hours, you have a tool you can grind to whatever you want. Okay, here's my old battered and bruised wooden mallet here. And I just wanted to show some of the features of the tools that we were just looking at. So I thought I would true this up and put the face shield on. Well, I didn't remember what it was made from, but it's just some old soft stuff. Anyway, we'll start with the that's all. So you may want to put some grooves in. And you can see it's an excellent grooving tool. But it's also a tool that's good for we'll try the little beading tool I mentioned. And the beading tool works just by rolling like this, left to right. Yeah, it's quick to put beads on. You don't have to have the V like I started off with the That's All tool. You can start now, if we wanted a cove, just to show you the negative rake scraper here. Perhaps you want an undercut here. Now for soft old wood, that's not a bad finish. And to cut that little undercut there could be tricky, trying to do it with conventional tools. All this, of course, you could do with regular tools. I'm not saying that. But this kind of idea of putting the high-speed steel into a piece of mild steel and being able to do it so easily with glue allows you to customize whatever shape you want on the end here, so that you can do some fancy shapes with high-speed steel. It works just fine. I showed you this one. This was a little fine one, and until you have one and you try it, you have no idea what it's capable of. You can see I'm in there quite a way. And that's quite a good finish on the side here. For end grain, it's pretty good. It's a scraper. Well, that just gives you some idea of the sort of things those little tools can do. They can be quite impressive. See how deep this is here? Fancied up my old. Oh, it doesn't slip in my hand now with these nice beads here. Well, be good for a little while longer. There's one other tool I didn't show you, but I think I'll come back and do that another time. So, there. It's up to you. It's your imagination. Whatever you can think of in the way of a shape, these high-speed steel scrapers seem to work. There's one little last tip I'll give you, and I got this from Alain Milan when I took his course. On the end of a pointed tool like this, you need a little radius on the end. Otherwise it tends to feed left or right and kind of go in its own direction. But if it's a little radius on the end, just a very fine radius, then it gives you a lot more control. There. Have fun. Hope you make some of these tools. If you do, let me know, and love to hear from you. Don't forget to subscribe. See you on the net. Bye now.